greet our friends everywhere with Chapter 8 of Dr. Ida, the story of Ida Scudder. This is another in the series, Stories of Great Christians, and comes to you from the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago.
My parents were soon to return to India, and I hoped to rejoin them within 2 years. That summer we had a real family reunion on Shelter Island, a few miles off the Connecticut shore of Long Island Sound. As you already know, we made a great deal of the Scudder name. We thought it was highly appropriate that Shelter Island began with the letter S. We named our cottage Scudhurst. A sailboat was called Scud, and the 2 rowboats were Skidoo and Scoot. I had transferred to Cornell and moved to New York and had purchased some new clothes just for this vacation, including a lovely new pair of shoes, which I insisted on wearing on the sailboat one day. I don't think we were ever again so close as a family.
Well, Bonnie, there'll be a doctor before your name before too long.
Not for 2 long years, Dad.
The time will pass quickly, my dear.
I wish I were through with all of the studies, Dad. I wish I were going back with you and Mother.
We wish you were, too. Remember to do things in moderation now. You may have to slow down a bit in order to keep well.
Now, what does that mean?
Oh, swimming a mile a day, 4 sets of tennis a day.
I don't get to do that at college. Besides, this is supposed to be a vacation.
I know you thrive on activity. I may have to check your thyroid.
Oh, Dad.
We do want you to get to India in one piece. Now what are you doing?
I'm going to change the tack of the sail.
The boom! Careful, the boom is swinging around! Help! Ida's fallen into the water! Ida, are you all right?
I'm all right. I lost my shoes. My brand new shoes. Does anyone see them? Cornell Medical College in those days was located in New York City. I was glad I had transferred from Philadelphia, and my studies were progressing well. I was gaining more experience and knowledge about general medicine, as well as specific help with tropical diseases, things I knew I would need in India. Birchfield Milliken made frequent trips to New York, and usually we enjoyed each other's company. The 2 years sped by, and just before I was to be graduated, I was assigned for 2 weeks to work at the city maternity hospital.
You 4 girls are to be on constant call at the maternity hospital. You'll be working with 3 doctors. Most of your work will be dealing with emergencies, right in the homes of the women who are in labor. This hospital, you know, was established to help women who live in our slum areas. It won't be pleasant work, probably, but you will be gaining essential experience. Now, I have a medical bag right here for each of you. I wouldn't have given you this assignment, you know, if I didn't have confidence in you. Now, good luck.
What a busy 2 weeks you must have had.
No lecture can ever compare with doing the job, Birchfield.
How busy was it?
71 emergency calls, 23 of which were maternity cases. I delivered 17 babies.
My word.
All were normal, unfortunately.
Why in the world do you say unfortunately?
I would have liked to have used forceps at least once, for the experience.
Well, not if the women would have suffered more, surely.
Oh, I wouldn't have wanted that. Birchfield, the poverty and the misery, it's unbelievable that people can live that way.
You'll see more poverty in India.
Yes. When I remember those 3 mothers who died that night, when I couldn't help, I'm so very grateful for this experience.
And in just a few days, you'll be Dr. Ida Scudder. You'll be a physician before I will.
You keep harking back to that, Birchfield, as though you resented my being first to finish. It doesn't matter.
I suppose not. But let's not quarrel. It's Central Park.
And it's a glorious May day.
Central Park is always a surprise to me. So strange to see such beauty in the heart of a big city. All I need are a few hills. Then it would be perfect.
Why hills?
Oh, add a few hills and this could be Tuscarora Valley in Pennsylvania.
Your home.
You'd love it there, Ida. My mother has a cottage on a hill among some shade trees with all kinds of flowers. And the sunsets, they just spread over the valley and the hills. Even the storms are beautiful. The way lightning awakens the valley and highlights details that you've never seen before.
There are times when I think you'd make a wonderful poet.
Oh, I think mountains get into your blood. Any kind of hills or mountains.
Now that has to be poetic. It certainly isn't scientific.
Which are you, Ida? Hill people or plains people?
I think I'm a hill person. I love the Berkshires. And we have some hills near where we lived in India.
Ida, I love you.
Birchfield?
I love you. I must tell you that. I wanted to say so months ago. You've brought me an inspiration and a joy I've never known before. And I can't bear to think of working alone.
I honestly don't know what to say.
Well, then, don't say anything, for now.
I'm flattered, and I'm honored, Birchfield. But I think we ought to get to know each other better before we decide anything. How many girls in similar situations have blurted out those same silly words? But Birchfield's was the first really serious declaration of love I had received. Birchfield and I had agreed to meet again in the summer at Northfield at the New England Missionary Conference. Before then, I knew I had to have a clearer idea of how I felt. I wrote to my mother. I hoped to have her answer before I would again see Birchfield. And I still remember how I ended my letter. I do want to marry someone someday. I do want children who will love me as much as I love you, my dearest mother. The next letter I received from my mother was addressed to Dr. Ida S. Scudder. Seeing it written out that way in her own hand somehow made it all finally official for me. The studies were passed. My work had begun.
I was sure you would pass your exams, but we were overjoyed with the cable telling us the good news. If only I could have been there for the graduation. We're back in Vellore, but are in the new bungalow. We have a new pony whose name is Robin, and Papa has purchased a new bicycle and uses it to travel to his outpost station. There is a cholera epidemic in the nearby town of Arni. It was caused by a woman washing a sick child's clothes in the reservoir where the schoolboys got their drinking water. Louisa Hart is here. Isn't that grand?
There was more news, but there was nothing about what Mother thought about Birchfield Milliken. Perhaps she hadn't yet received my letter, but I had so hoped for some sort of guidance from her.
A flower for my lady.
A yellow rose. How very pretty. Where did you find it?
Along the way, I appropriated it. You ought always to wear a flower in your hair, Ida. You look like a queen, standing there as you are. My queen.
I'll bet you say that to all the lady doctors you know.
I have an admission to make. I prayed once that you'd fail your final examination so you'd have to spend an extra year in the States and let me catch up with you.
Birchfield, you didn't.
Just once. And I think the Lord knew I didn't really mean it.
Prayer isn't something to play games with.
Well, I'm not looking forward to this next year, Ida. I wish I had my doctor's degree so that I could go to the mission field with you. Have you thought any more about what I said back in Central Park?
Some.
You said then that we had to get to know each other better.
That was a silly thing to say.
How are we going to get to know each other better? We can't do that very well through letters.
Birchfield, how do you feel about my being a doctor before you have your degree? How do you feel, really?
Well, I'm delighted. Congratulations, Dr. Scudder.
We're the same age, but sometimes I have the impression that in spite of everything you say, you're not entirely happy that a woman accomplished something like this ahead of you.
Not when that woman is the woman I love.
Birchfield, do you know any husbands and wives who are both doctors?
No. But does that matter?
I don't know of any either. But I'm not so certain it doesn't matter. Two people with careers, the same careers. I assume that a man likes to feel he's not only the head of the house, but also the chief provider. Were we to marry, you would be the head of the house, but we would both be working at the same thing.
Well, we wouldn't have to be competitors. We could help each other.
Yes. But there is this matter of the mission field. I'm going back to India, regardless.
I said I wished I could go back with you.
But how do you feel about the mission field itself?
Well, I'm here at the missionary conference, am I not?
Yes, you are. But you haven't applied to any mission board yet for overseas service.
Well, I haven't finished my studies. I don't think I should apply until they're out of the way.
I did. I'm worried, Birchfield, about both our common love for medicine and my desire to serve God on a mission field. In one way, we're so alike. In the other, I'm not as sure.
What matters is that I love you. I can't decide anything until I know that you love me. I think you do, but you've never said so.
I think that what matters is not only how we feel about each other, but also how we feel about God's claim upon our lives. And that does include questions about how and where we should work.
Ida, do you love me?
Birchfield, I think you are a very dear person.
That isn't quite the answer I wanted to hear.
I don't have that answer yet. Someone is coming.
Fine time for an interruption.
It's Annie Hancock.
Well, who in the world is
My
Annie
old
Hancock?
schoolmate at Northfield, that's who. Annie!
Ida Scudder, you old bones. I heard you were at the conference, and I've been looking all over for you.
I'd like you to meet Birchfield Milliken. That's his real name.
It's no more an improbable name than Annie Hancock. How do you do?
I'm pleased to meet you.
How wonderful to see you, Annie, after all these years.
I'm just bursting to tell you the news. I'm going to be a missionary.
After the way I tried to discourage you, I still feel guilty about all those things I said and wrote.
I'm going to be a missionary, and I'm going to India.
Oh, Annie.
Your board, our board, has accepted me. All I have to do is raise my support. Perhaps we could even sail together.
Oh, I'd like that.
I'm even to be stationed at Vellore.
Annie, I think you should share your enthusiasm with Birchfield. I haven't begun to convince him yet that he should apply for missionary service, and he would make such a fine missionary.
And so we conclude Chapter 8 of Dr. Ida, a story of Ida Scudder. This has been another in the series, Stories of Great Christians, coming to you from the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago.